My parents missed my wedding for my brother's charity dinner, but I had to post a photo of my new $135,000 Porsche on Instagram, and they called 3 days later and said I had to save our family. This is where it all began. Not with the wedding ceremony they skipped, but with that damn car. If anyone had told me that after 5 years of absolute, freezing silence, it would take a piece of German metal to make my parents remember my existence, I probably would have laughed. But now, sitting in my office and staring at the Patricia calling on the screen, I wasn't laughing. I felt a cold, hard sense of vindication. 5 years. That's how long it had been since the creamy, white chairs in the front row at my wedding to Ryan stood empty. 90 people gathered to watch me walk down the aisle, yet the 3 people whose nod I truly craved simply didn't show up. I can still recall the scent of the white roses in my bouquet, the forced smile I wore to keep from breaking down, and the sympathetic glances of Ryan's friends and relatives washing over me. I called my mother, Patricia, 3 days before the wedding. I offered to pay for not just their flights from Florida, but the hotel too. "We can't, Jessica," she said in her usual, detached tone, the one she used to decline a magazine subscription. "Jason's law firm has a charitable gala that weekend. It's important for his career." I heard my father, William, muttering in the background, "Tell her we're busy, I need to check the golf scores." Standing alone in that bridal suite, I realized for the first time that I didn't have parents. I had 2 people who gave birth to me, but all their attention, all their resources, and all their pride had always been reserved for Jason. He was the family's future, the golden boy. And I had always been the one who was fine on her own. When I was 8, I won an art contest, but they were busy discussing Jason's debate trophy. When I got a full scholarship to college, they just nodded, "You were always smart, Jessica." That's good. But Jason needs our support to get into the Ivy League. My whole life was an attempt to earn validation they never intended to give. Scholarships, high honors, business pitches, all were met with a dismissive, "Good job, honey," if they were acknowledged at all. But my life didn't stop. I met Ryan, who sees me, not my achievements. I built my company, Crescent Motion Studio, from the ground up, investing every penny and every sleepless night. And now, 5 years after the day they chose Jason's gala, my software was acquired by a major media corporation. We closed the deal last week. $21 million. Money they had no idea existed. We celebrated in the office with my team, the 12 people who became my real family. We drank cheap champagne out of plastic cups. No one asked about my parents. No one asked about Jason. Because they knew. My victory was ours, and it was pure. That evening, I checked Instagram. Jason, of course, had posted photos of his daughters in matching uniforms, the caption something about family tradition at Westridge Academy. These girls were already the 3rd generation, and my life was just a blank space in their family album. I felt no anger, no envy. Just a dull, factual realization, they had invested more in maintaining Jason's image and his family than in their own future. All those expensive vacations, the $30,000 per year per child school, the house in the prestigious neighborhood that Jason couldn't afford on his moderate lawyer's salary, all of it was funded by my parents' retirement savings. It was then I made a decision that was completely unlike anything I'd done before. I called my financial advisor. "I want to finalize the purchase today." That Porsche, the metallic gray one. It was ostentatious, completely illogical, and, damn it, exactly what I needed. Not to get their approval, but to show them that I never needed their money. 3 hours later, I was signing papers for a $135,000 car. It wasn't a show-off purchase, it was a self-sufficiency status report purchase. I took a photo of it in my driveway, the sun gleaming off its perfect, solid body. "Dreams realized," I captioned it. That was Monday. Tuesday passed in silence. Wednesday too. No calls from family. No texts. And then, on Thursday, at 4:20 p.m., my phone vibrated. "Patricia." I answered, feeling everything tighten inside me. Her voice was different. Not detached, but authoritative and urgent, the tone she saved for genuine family crises. Jessica, we need to talk. It's very urgent. Family meeting tomorrow. Family meeting? I repeated, letting the disbelief seep into my voice. After 5 years of silence, my wedding wasn't a reason for a meeting, nor was my company. What suddenly became important? She hesitated. It's financial issues, Jessica. We need to discuss this as a family. Of course. They saw the car. They know about the acquisition. And suddenly, I'm family again. 2 o'clock tomorrow, I said and hung up, not giving her a chance to explain or say goodbye. The power was finally on my side, and it felt like something solid and real, like the leather of the new Porsche. Only 3 days. That's all it took. This whole drama unfolded in 1 week. Next week, they'll find out what real drama feels like. The family emergency was a desperate sales pitch. They needed my $21 million, not me, but they didn't know I'd already spent $16 million of it. I drove the 40 minutes to my childhood home the next day in the Porsche. The metallic gray felt cool and solid beneath me, a physical manifestation of my independence. 40 minutes of forced reflection, birthdays missed, achievements unacknowledged, holidays spent alone while they gathered without me. The drive felt like traversing a time warp. Pulling into the circular driveway, I parked right in front of the traditional colonial house. My sleek, modern car looked aggressively out of place against their manicured lawn and classic architecture. For a moment, I just sat there, my hands tight on the steering wheel, trying to regulate my breathing. The last time I stood on that porch was 6 years ago, telling them I was engaged to Ryan. Patricia had nodded politely while William kept checking his watch, clearly waiting for me to leave. They've never needed me before. Why now? A text from Ryan popped up, remember who you are. Call me if you need extraction. I smiled, a genuine, tiny twitch of my lips. He was my anchor. Just as I reached the door, it swung open. Patricia and William stood there, their expressions morphing from strained anticipation to outright shock as they registered the Porsche behind me. They didn't even register me first. You've done well for yourself, Jessica, William said, not hello, not I've missed you, just a financial assessment. His tone was a blend of grudging respect and obvious calculation. Yes, I replied simply. No hugs, no forced warmth. They led me to the dining room table, the very table where I'd eaten countless dinners in silence while Jason's accomplishments dominated the conversation. Jason and his wife, Hannah, were already seated. Hannah had a forced, practiced look of concern, while Jason offered a curt nod, as if we'd spoken last week instead of 5 years ago. Jessica, Jason began, his voice surprisingly subdued. Thank you for coming. I remained standing, my small, expensive leather purse clutched tight. No, let's not start with pleasantries. I want to know why I am suddenly important enough to be included in family discussions after being excluded from everything else for years. Patricia's hand flew to her throat, a familiar, dramatic gesture. We can discuss that later, honey. We have more pressing matters. I'm not in a rush, I countered, my voice calm but firm, holding my ground literally and figuratively. And I'm not interested in being convenient family only when you need something. For the first time in my adult life, I saw a flicker of genuine uncertainty, maybe even fear, in William's eyes. This wasn't the daughter they had successfully ignored for decades. William cleared his throat, pushing a thick manila folder across the polished oak table toward me. It's Logan's, it's Jason's mortgage. He's 3 months behind. The twins' tuition is due for the whole semester. They're threatening foreclosure. The silence stretched, cold and absolute. I didn't reach for the folder. 2 years of no contact, and this is what brings us together. Foreclosure. You need to help your brother, Patricia whispered, tears already welling up, a performance I'd seen 1,000 times. Think about your niece and nephew. They shouldn't suffer because of financial difficulties. I took a deep breath, letting the pressure build. I looked from William, who was practically begging with his eyes, to Patricia, who was relying on the classic guilt trip, and finally to Jason, who looked less like a corporate lawyer and more like a petulant child denied a toy. "We are family, Jessica," Jason insisted, leaning forward with the audacity only he possessed. "That's what family does. When one of us succeeds, we help the others." Hannah, ever the strategist, opened a leather photo album, pushing it toward me. "They ask about Aunt Jessica all the time. Look." She pointed to photos of two girls I barely recognized. "Maddie wants to know why you never visit." The sheer manipulative gall of it was breathtaking. They were using children they had deliberately kept me from, as human shields for their own financial disaster. "We've done everything we could," William said, his voice dropping to a theatrical hush. "Our retirement fund is depleted. We've been supporting them as best as we could." The implication was clear: my success meant I owed them. My independence was selfish in the face of family need. I did not touch the loan papers. I did not touch the photo album. I didn't scream or cry. I simply looked at the three desperate faces sitting across from me, and the steel inside me hardened further. "Where were you at my wedding?" I asked, the question dropping into the strained atmosphere with the weight of a stone. Jason blinked. "What?" "That was 2 years ago, Jess." "What does that have to do with this?" "My wedding," I repeated, my voice steady. 2 years ago. Where were you?" Patricia dabbed her eye. "We were busy, honey. Jason had that important event with his firm. It wasn't convenient." I nodded slowly, letting the truth crystallize. "And yet, here you are now. Because you saw the Porsche on Instagram. You only contacted me because you saw the car." Jason's face flushed an angry red. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I asked, sitting down now, feeling the power shift entirely to my end of the table. "I built everything alone. Every scholarship, every client, every late night. Where were any of you?" "What's that got to do with the current situation?" William demanded, his voice returning to its familiar, dismissive bark. "Everything," I said, finally reaching for the manila folder. I didn't open it. I just tapped the cover with my index finger. "Tell me why I should write a check today." I told them I built my success alone, and my brother snapped, "Some of us were just trying to live normal lives." That's when I showed them the real debt they owed me. The dining room of my childhood home felt smaller than I remembered, the polished oak table now a battleground. William sat at the head, hands folded, trying to project the image of a CEO presiding over a crucial board meeting, not a father begging his estranged daughter for money. Patricia sat beside him, rigid and worried. Across from me, Jason was slouching, his expensive shirt wrinkled, a symbol of the life he was struggling to maintain. Hannah, his wife, had retreated, nervously tracing the border of the photo album. "I'm listening," I repeated, my tone devoid of emotion, the single tap of my finger on the loan folder echoing in the silence. "Tell me why I should write a check today." Jason slammed his open palm on the table, the abrupt noise making everyone flinch. "You always had to prove something, didn't you, Jess? Always showing off how smart you were, how creative, how special. Some of us were just trying to live normal lives." His voice was raw with resentment, the carefully constructed facade of the successful lawyer finally cracking. "Normal?" I leaned back slightly, allowing his accusation to hang in the air. "Is normal being bailed out by your parents' retirement fund for 5 years? Is normal putting your kids' private school tuition on your elderly parents' credit? Or is normal skipping your only sister's wedding because it wasn't convenient?" William tried to intervene, his hand automatically reaching to restrain Jason. "Your brother had more potential, Jessica. We had to nurture that. You were always so independent. We never had to worry about you." Patricia seized the emotional opening. "We're still your parents, Jessica. Despite everything. Blood is thicker than water." Her tears were flowing freely now, a performance perfected over decades to elicit immediate compliance. Parents entitled, I corrected her, my voice low and steady, a surprising stillness at my core. You missed my high school graduation. You missed my college scholarship ceremony. You missed the launch of my first company. You missed my wedding. I tapped the table, marking each ignored milestone. You missed my life. And now you want to share in what that life has built. Jason scoffed. You sound like you're reading from a script. We made a mistake, fine, but this is a family crisis. Our home, the twins' education, it's all on the line. You have $21 million sitting in a bank account. You don't have kids. You don't understand responsibility. You're right, I said, meeting his hostile gaze unflinchingly. I don't understand the kind of responsibility that involves borrowing money to maintain an image. I understand the kind that involves earning it. I stood up slowly. The sudden movement drew all their eyes. I reached for the sleek, black leather briefcase I'd brought in and placed it on the table with a soft, decisive thud. You're asking me to pay Jason's mortgage. You're asking me to deplete my assets to save your lifestyle, I stated, my voice a simple recitation of facts. But you didn't build this success. You don't get to share it. I unsnapped the latches of the briefcase. The sound was sharp and commanding in the silence. Jason's eyes were fixed on my hands, anticipating a checkbook. William and Patricia leaned forward, relief already softening their features. They truly believed I was about to cave. Instead of a checkbook, I withdrew a single document and laid it flat on the table, pushing the loan folder aside. I've made a different decision, I announced. The document was a press release. The large, bold headline was impossible to ignore. Rivera Media Scholarship Foundation launched with $16 million endowment from Crescent Motion founder, Jessica Rivers. $16 million? Jason choked out the number, his face going pale. Yes, I confirmed, smoothing the paper with my fingertips. The foundation is named after Ms. Rivera, my high school media arts teacher. The woman who attended my gallery showings when my family was too busy. The money is legally protected in a foundation trust. The board approved the allocation last week. The press release goes out tomorrow morning. The silence that followed was heavy, like concrete settling over the room. They stared at the paper, at the figure that represented millions they would never touch. I'm helping girls who never got the applause I didn't get, I said, deliberately gathering my belongings. That's what family means to me. Jason's face twisted in fury, veins standing out on his neck. You're wasting it on strangers. On nobody. Girls who deserve better than what I got, I snapped, closing my briefcase. Girls who need someone to see them, to invest in them. I picked up my phone, turning the screen toward them. A recording app displayed an active timer, 36:14 and counting. I've also documented every manipulative message and conversation from today, I said quietly. Every threat, every demand, every guilt trip. Just in case anyone gets creative with legal claims against the foundation. I turned toward the door, my heart hammering, but my footsteps steady. Behind me, I heard Jason's chair scrape back violently. You can't just leave. His voice cracked with genuine panic. We need that money. I paused at the threshold, not turning back. No, Jason. What you needed was to show up at my graduation. At my company launch. At my wedding. But that opportunity has passed. The door closed behind me with a soft, final click that sounded exactly like freedom. The entire confrontation, from my arrival to my exit, took less than an hour, but it encapsulated 2 decades of resentment, climaxing in one brutal exchange of power and loss. They tried to sabotage my foundation announcement and call me a heartless daughter, but the twist is, I knew exactly what they'd do next. It was time for them to learn that leverage works both ways. The Porsche purred beneath me as I drove away from my childhood home, my knuckles no longer white on the steering wheel. I pressed the call button on the dashboard. It's done, I told Ryan when he answered. They showed exactly who they are. How bad was it? His voice filled the car, a warm blanket of concern. Exactly what we expected, I said, feeling lighter than I had in years. Jason lost his mind when I showed him the foundation paperwork. William tried to salvage the situation, but Patricia just kept crying about family obligation. Are you okay? I glanced at myself in the rearview mirror. No tears. No flush of embarrassment. Only a clear-eyed woman looking back. I'm better than okay. For the first time, I saw them clearly, without hoping for something different. I'm proud of you, Ryan said. Foundation board meeting at 9 tomorrow morning. Everything's ready for the press announcement. The timing had been deliberate. Establish the foundation legally before any family confrontation. Schedule the announcement before they could regroup. No emotional pleas, just legal structures they couldn't penetrate. The Rivera Media Scholarship would be my legacy, not a family drama. The first retaliatory message came at 11:47 p.m. By midnight, my phone buzzed continuously with texts marked "Family Emergency" from my mother and cousin Meredith. I silenced it and placed it face down on my nightstand. I didn't need to read their messages to know what they contained: betrayal, heartlessness. How could you do this to your own flesh and blood? Morning brought 6 voicemails from Patricia. The progression in her tone was evident, from weepy pleas for unity to sharp accusations of betrayal, culminating in threats about what people will think of a daughter abandoning her family. You've dealt with worse, I told myself as I applied mascara, grounding myself in routine. Ryan handed me coffee. Jason's been calling business associates, he said, scrolling through his phone. And your dad tried reaching my uncle. Predictable. They're moving fast, but not cleverly. I took a sip. The foundation board meeting went smoothly. 12 accomplished women from media and finance, all committed to supporting young female artists. The press release was approved unanimously. The first scholarship recipient would be selected in 6 months. I was reviewing the event venue proposal when Janine, my receptionist, called. Miss Rivers, your family is here. They're causing quite a scene in the lobby. Through the glass walls of my office, I could see security already moving toward the commotion. I straightened papers that didn't need straightening. Have security escort them out, please. Calmly and professionally. I watched as Patricia's voice rose over the general office hum. My daughter is abandoning her family. Her hands gestured wildly. Jason stood beside her, arms crossed, face flushed with that particular shade of red it used to turn when he was denied something as a child. My team watched me for cues. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked to my office door. It's being handled, I told them with a calm I'd practiced for this moment. Let's continue with our work. Security escorted my family toward the elevators. Jason's voice carried back, this isn't over. We have family obligations. That evening, I drafted a single email to all 3 of them. I have documented your harassment at my workplace. Any further attempts to contact me at my office will result in a formal complaint. All communication regarding family matters must be directed through my attorney, whose contact information is attached. 2 days later, I sat with my therapist, Patricia, a different one. Direct and clear, she noted, stirring her tea. Necessary, I countered. Not satisfying, exactly. More like setting a boundary. Yes, she offered. They're showing who they've always been, aren't they? People tend to reveal themselves under pressure. What you're seeing now isn't new behavior, just intensified. The realization was simple but profound. I wanted their love, but they wanted my resources. All those years of neglect, of absent parents, it wasn't my job to earn their love, it was their job to give it freely. And now, I was not responsible for fixing them. There was a profound freedom in that acceptance. The next morning brought news that Jason had contacted the local paper, the Portland Chronicle, about a family dispute. The reporter, smarter than Jason anticipated, asked why none of them attended my wedding. The resulting story painted a picture Jason hadn't intended, of parents absent during milestones suddenly interested when money appeared. My mother's subsequent social media rant generated an unexpected wave of support for me, We always wondered why they never talked about your success, wrote a cousin I hadn't seen in years. William's attempts to contact my investors fizzled when they refused to discuss a personal matter. The community rallied around the Scholarship Foundation instead. The Portland Business Journal requested an interview about the foundation. I agreed, setting clear parameters. We'll discuss the scholarship's purpose and impact, not family matters. The reporter, Delilah Warren, met me at the foundation's temporary office space. This is an impressive initiative, she said. $16 million is substantial seed funding. What inspired such generosity? I had a teacher who saw potential in me when others didn't, I explained carefully. Ms. Rivera changed my life by simply paying attention. I want to create that opportunity for young women who might otherwise be overlooked. Crescent Motion's acquisition was one of the biggest tech stories last year, Delilah noted. Is your family proud? The question hung between us, the ultimate moral dilemma. I could dodge it, redirect. But this was my leverage, my chance to set the record straight permanently. I met her eyes directly. My success was built without family support. They weren't at my wedding, my graduation, or when I sold my company. They have made their choices, and I have made mine. This foundation is my choice. Delilah's pen paused. That provides interesting context for the foundation's mission. The next day, the article appeared with the headline, "Self-Made Success Creates Legacy of Support." The contrast between my generosity and my family's entitlement became public narrative. When news of Jason's house foreclosure broke days later, the community connected the dots without my saying a word. The tide had fully turned. My revenge wasn't a check, it was impact. It was a thriving foundation built on the ruins of their attempts to control me. 2 weeks after the public revelation, I stood at the podium of the Women in Media Alliance accepting the Business Leadership Award. Looking out at faces that genuinely celebrated my success, Ryan beaming in the front row, my team applauding fiercely, I realized the tables had completely turned. Patricia's social position in her exclusive club circles had eroded with the news of Jason's financial collapse. William's attempts to contact my business contacts had failed entirely. Meanwhile, the foundation thrived, generating positive coverage that spread beyond Portland. "Thank you," I began, my voice steady, amplified by the microphone. This journey began in invisibility and has led to impact. For years, I measured my worth by the approval I couldn't earn from people who refused to give it. Now, I measure it by what we build together. The standing ovation washed over me, a powerful, cleansing wave. My therapist called this post-traumatic growth, this strange peace I found after accepting that some wounds never fully heal. I maintained careful boundaries with extended family. The Thanksgiving invitation sat in my inbox, the subject line a transparent attempt at manipulation, "Family needs to be together." I ignored it. The final, emotional crescendo came the following Friday. My parents requested a meeting at a downtown coffee shop, one I used to frequent with Ms. Rivera. I arrived in the Porsche. The car that had triggered their sudden interest after years of silence was now the symbol of the insurmountable barrier between us. William looked older than I remembered, defeat etched into the lines around his mouth. Patricia looked fragile, her usual sharp elegance replaced by a brittle vulnerability. "We should have been there," William admitted, staring at his untouched coffee. "At the wedding?" I asked, though I knew that wasn't all he meant. "Everywhere," his voice cracked. "All those years." Patricia's eyes shimmered with tears. "How can we fix this, Jessica?" "We always believed in you," she lied, rewriting our entire history with desperate sentiment. 3 months ago, I might have grasped at this opening, desperate for any acknowledgement. Now, I felt only calm clarity. "Some things can't be fixed," I told them. "Only accepted." Patricia flinched as if struck. "I'm not closing the door forever," I continued, "but I needed accountability, not convenience. I will consider limited, supervised contact after you both start family counseling with a licensed therapist." "That's unnecessary," William began, the old dismissiveness rising, clinging to his familiar power structure. It's non-negotiable. I sipped my tea, the warmth spreading through my chest like certainty. They exchanged glances, the silent communication of people who never expected consequences for their choices. Jason's collapse had stripped away their illusions of his superiority. My success existed entirely beyond their reach. The foundation was legally secured, thriving, independent of their approval. And Jason? Patricia whispered. Jason made his bed, I said simply. I am not financially responsible for his lifestyle choices. That is a matter between him and his creditors. No agreements were made. No concessions offered. I paid for my tea and watched them walk toward their car, a sensible sedan now, the luxury vehicles long gone. I drove away without looking back, freedom replacing obligation in every beat of my heart. The foundation awaited. The first scholarship recipient, a 17-year-old filmmaker named Maya, needed my input on her project. Later that week, I stood in the foundation's sunlit studio, watching Maya adjust her camera settings. What do you think about this angle? She asked, her eyes bright with the same creative fire Ms. Rivera once saw in mine. Try moving it slightly to the left, I advised, my voice carrying the confidence of a mentor, not the desperate plea of a daughter seeking approval. On the wall, photos documented our scholarship recipients' projects, stories they never could have told without the foundation's support. Each frame represented a voice that might have been silenced, just as mine nearly was. This space, this foundation, replaced the childhood bedroom where I once dreamed of being seen. When Maya showed me the final cut of her documentary, her eyes were tear-bright. You're the reason I believe I can do this, she said, wrapping her arms around me in a spontaneous hug. I thought of Ms. Rivera, how her belief sustained me through years of family indifference. Now, the cycle continued, not of neglect, but of genuine support. I realize now what these young women need, because I lived without it, unconditional belief in their potential. Driving home in my Porsche, I passed the coffee shop where I had my final conversation with my parents. I caught a glimpse of them walking on the sidewalk. Our eyes met briefly. I didn't stop. There was no pain in the moment, only peaceful acknowledgement. They taught me what love isn't. Ryan and my work taught me what it is. Tomorrow, Maya sets up for her next project. I'll be there, camera in hand, showing her techniques I've mastered over years of making myself visible. Family isn't who raises you. It's who sees you.